Today we're making 5 adorable treats for Valentine's Day. Hi there foodie friends, my name is Carly and welcome back to my channel, Adventures in Yum. Before we begin, of course we need to whip up some meringue. Today we're focusing more on the piping of our Valentine shapes, so make sure to check out the description for a link to my meringue cookies post on my food blog. Preparing this meringue is very similar to the mini Halloween pavlovas I made for day 3 of my 30-day holiday video challenge this past fall. Really the only difference is that you don't add cornstarch to these, but if you'd love to see a video showing how to just prepare the meringue for cookies exactly like the ones we're making today, let me know in the comments below. For this video, I decided to make a double batch of meringue so that I would have plenty for a bunch of fun things we're making today. Once the meringue was nice and stiff, I split the batter between 4 bowls and added my desired flavoring and colors. To bowl 1, I added just vanilla extract. Bowl 2 was vanilla extract and a little bit of purple food gel. Bowl 3 was raspberry extract with red food gel. And bowl 4 was strawberry extract with pink food gel. Now that our meringue batter has achieved stiff peaks again after adding the color and extract, we're ready to pipe. Quick pro tip, add a tiny dot of meringue to the 4 corners of your baking sheet to help secure your parchment paper. This will ensure that your paper doesn't slip around while you're piping your pretty shapes. First up, we're piping some easy meringue hearts. To begin, we place our meringue batter into a piping bag fitted with whatever large tip we want, like a Wilton 4B star tip, which is what I'm using here. We hold the piping bag perpendicular to our surface and apply pressure to the bag. As soon as we start to make a little blob, continue applying pressure as we move the piping bag diagonally downward and to the right. When we're ready to make the tip of our heart, we stop applying pressure and pull the piping bag away. Make sure that you're not still applying pressure when you pull away because it's not going to give us that point that we want. Next, we hold the piping bag right next to the part that we just piped, and we do the exact same thing, but this time we're piping diagonally downward and to the left so that the meringue overlaps with that we just piped to create the pointed bottom of the heart. Also, here's what piping a heart with a Wilton 1M tip looks like. You do exactly the same motions, but with this tip you simply get a slightly different look to the final heart. And that's all there is to piping meringue hearts. Second, we're making some simple meringue kisses. Kisses are absolutely the easiest thing that you can make with meringue. Once again, we're holding our piping bag perpendicular to the surface of the parchment paper. We apply a good amount of pressure to create a blob shape, stop applying pressure, and then pull up to create that pointed top. That's literally all there is to piping these kisses. Stay tuned for later in the video to see how to give your kisses an easy upgrade. Third, we're piping some meringue pops. Meringue pops are a fun way to enjoy your meringue shapes, but on a stick. You simply add a tiny dot of meringue, lay a lollipop stick onto the meringue, and then pipe whatever designs you want. For one of my meringue pops, I decided to make a heart out of piping little kisses of each color. For other pops, you can pipe a simple heart like we made earlier. But for probably one of my favorite meringue pops in this video, I made a design that is XOXO, which obviously represents hugs and kisses. To make these, I used a piping bag fitted with the Wilton 1A piping tip and filled with white meringue. Holding the bag perpendicular to the baking sheet, we carefully write XOXO, making sure that all of the letters connect to the lollipop stick and that they connect to each other as well. To decorate these, I decided it would be fun to add some edible pink heart confetti sprinkles to one and some red perlite sugar sprinkles and the pink hearts to the other. Quick pro tip, if you want a deeper, richer color for your meringues, add extra food gel to the inside of the piping bag. This will help ensure that your meringues have more vibrant colors without having to add a crazy amount of food gel to the meringue batter. That's exactly what we're doing here for the red roses that we're about to pipe. Fourth, we're making some meringue roses. Using a piping bag fitted with a Wilton 104 petal tip, lined with red food gel and filled with red meringue, we add a little dollop of meringue to a flower nail and then place a little piece of the parchment paper on top. Next, we pipe a little mound of meringue in the center of the paper. We can use a separate round tip for this, like a Wilton 10 or 12, but I like to just make a mound using the same tip that we're using to make the roses. Once we have our mound, we angle the piping tip so that the rounded bottom is always pointed toward the flower nail. To start, the pointed end of the piping tip is pointed away from us, and we pipe 3 petals over the top of the meringue mound. Then, holding the petal tip with the pointed end pointed up and away from the flower nail, we pipe 5 petals around the meringue that we just piped. Finally, we angle the pointed end of the petal tip toward us and pipe about 7 petals around our flower to finish off the rose shape. Once we're completely done piping, we carefully remove the parchment paper from the flower nail and place it onto the parchment paper lined baking sheet. Then we're ready to pipe more roses. I also decided to pipe some pink roses using a Wilton 103 piping tip, which is just slightly smaller than the 104 tip that we just used for the red roses. Last but certainly not least, we're making a heart-shaped meringue wreath. Most of the assembly for this one actually happens after the meringues have been baked and cooled, but we do need a base for our wreath, so we're using the white meringue batter and a Wilton 104 piping tip to pipe a large heart onto the parchment paper. Once we've piped all of our meringue batter, we can add some things like sprinkles or edible glitter to the meringues before we bake them. Then we're ready to bake these in a 300 Fahrenheit or about 149 Celsius oven for about 2.5 to 3 hours. Once we've piped all of our meringue batter, we can add some things like sprinkles or edible glitter to the meringues before we bake them. Then we're ready to bake these in a 300 Fahrenheit or about 149 Celsius oven for about 2.5 to 3 hours. Once the timer goes off, we can pull them out to go on the counter, but I personally like to leave them in the oven for a few hours until the oven completely cools, or even overnight. Before we check out what the meringues look like after they've been baked, if you're getting value out of this video, then please make sure to hit that like button, click subscribe, and ring that bell to be notified about my latest video. Here's what our meringue items look like after they're baked. And of course, we want to get a peek of the inside, so here's the inside of a kiss. They're so crunchy, but they also melt in your mouth. I've had some people actually tell me that meringues kind of remind them of cotton candy, but with a crunchy texture. Quick pro tip, to remove the different meringue shapes, I recommend carefully lifting the meringue while pressing down on the parchment paper. This especially helps to avoid breaking the more delicate cookie shapes. As promised, a super easy way to upgrade meringue kisses is to melt some chocolate. Here I melted about 1/4 cup of dark chocolate. Dip the bottoms of the meringues in the chocolate, shake and gently scrape off a lot of the excess off the bottom. Place them on the parchment paper, and once the chocolate has completely set, carefully remove them. To assemble our wreath, we melt some candy melts to act as our glue that will hold everything together. We don't need much. Here I melted about 1/4 cup or about 45 grams of Ghirardelli white vanilla melting wafers. Now, unfortunately, I did what every content creator dreads. I thought I was recording, but as it turns out, I somehow was not recording the majority of the assembly of this wreath. So unfortunately, that happens sometimes, but to assemble this wreath, it's super duper easy. We simply add a little bit of candy melts to the bottom of each meringue cookie and then immediately place it where we want on our heart. I like to alternate between some of the colors and add a mixture of the roses and hearts that we piped earlier. Once we're happy with our base, as you can see, we add little accent kisses to add more dimension to this piece. Once the candy melts have completely set, our beautiful meringue heart wreath is complete. Which of the 5 meringue treats did you enjoy the most in this video? Let me know in the comments below. I hope you give these a try because they're really fun and they make a cool homemade gift. If you're interested in checking out some of the products that I used in this video, please make sure to check out the video description below for their Amazon links. Thank you so much for joining me today, foodie friends. I'll see you next time for another yummy adventure. Cheers!